Prior to 1994, Colombia's World Cup history was very forgettable. They were knocked out in the group stage in 1962 and eliminated in the round of 16 28 years later in 1990. However, ahead of the 1994 World Cup, things seemed different. Colombia had finished third at the 1993 Copa America and fourth in 1991. On top of this, they also excelled in qualification, winning their group and defeating Argentina 2 times in the process, one of which was a 5-0 demolition away against them. This Colombian team were serious contenders, and many people had exceedingly high expectations of them. Colombia as a nation was in turmoil around this time. The war on drugs had only started a year earlier in 1993, and civil unrest was highly prevalent. The World Cup were one of few times where Colombia felt somewhat unified and could have something to celebrate. But this sense of joy and optimism quickly dwindled when they lost 3-1 to Romania in their opening game at the World Cup. But with 2 games remaining, all hope was far from lost. Their next opponents were the host United States, and despite Colombia losing to Romania, they were still the clear favorite to win. However, this optimism was also crushed quickly when the United States obtained the lead in the 35th minute through a ridiculously unfortunate own goal by Andres Escobar. But the consequences of that own goal would be far from ridiculous. The game remained 1-0 until half-time, but in the 52nd minute, the United States doubled their lead and all hope was lost for Colombia, despite them scoring a late consolation goal. Their 2-0 win against Switzerland in the last game was irrelevant. This World Cup was over for Colombia. 5 days after Colombia had been eliminated, on July 1st, Andres Escobar, the player who had scored the own goal against the United States, decided to call some of his friends and spend the night out in Medellin. They started by going to a bar, and after staying there for a while, they decided to leave and go to a liquor store. Shortly afterwards, they went to a nightclub, where they eventually split up. Then at around 3 AM, he was alone in a parking lot when 3 men appeared all of a sudden. An argument then ensued, which subsequently led to Escobar being shot 6 times. On top of Escobar losing his life and his relatives losing a family member, it was also a huge loss for the Colombian national team and Colombia as a nation. Also, it was a loss for the entire world, and more specifically the footballing world, because an own goal had cost a human life. In the 1998 World Cup, Colombia were hoping to seek redemption from their past trials. However, they ended up getting nothing of it. Just like in 1994, they only obtained 3 points and were eliminated in their group stage. They had to wait 16 more years until 2014, until they finally made another appearance at the World Cup. In 2014, Colombia were still seeking redemption after what happened in 1994, and this time around they would get it. They charmed the entire world with their exquisite and entertaining football, cruising through the group stage, defeating Greece 3-0, the Ivory Coast 2-1 and Japan 4-1. In the round of 16, they were gonna face a Uruguay side that had defeated both Italy and England in the group stage. The last time Colombia faced Uruguay at a World Cup was in 1962, where Uruguay won 2-1, but this time around it was Colombia's turn to shine. In the 28th minute, they took the lead through a strike by James Rodriguez, that won the Puskás Award later in that year. A stunning volley from outside the penalty area. James scored yet again later in the game, and Colombia won comfortably 2-0. However, in the following match, in the quarterfinals against the host Brazil, they lost 2-0. Being eliminated in the quarterfinals would be considered a massive failure for some nations, but certainly not for Colombia. It was their best ever World Cup performance, where they experienced the success they should have experienced in 1994. They won the FIFA Fair Play Award and set the world on fire with some of the most entertaining football ever played.